We're recording everything. We're going to post it on ju.edu/coronavirus, and then we'll be posting on YouTube and Facebook on our social media channels as well. So for anyone that isn't able to join us here today, it will be available after this. The structure today, we were the leaders of the institution were kind enough to join us for this virtual town hall. So we're going to pass the floor to all of them for their remarks and then leave some room on the back end for questions and answers from you all. You can start asking questions now. If you look in the bottom right of your screen, the purple control panel is where you click so that you have the opportunity to ask questions throughout. We've got folks that have a JU next to their title in there that can answer questions for you as you have them, and then that will help inform the Q&A session that we have on the back end. Another quick laundry item as we're all getting to know this format. In the top right of your screen, there is an opportunity to toggle back and forth from the grid view to the speaker view. If you'd like to make the speaker bigger, feel free to use that tool as well. Introing our panelists now, we're the leadership of the institution kind enough to set aside some time today to join us. President Tim Cost, our provost, Dr. Chris Sapienza, our dean of students, Dr. Christy Gober, and from the Kegwin School of Nursing, Dr. Elaine Bourne, all with us. We're going to go around, hear remarks from all of them, and then again, give time on the back end for the Q&A. So with that, I will hand the floor to President Cost for opening remarks.
Great. Thanks very much, Scott. Thanks to all of you for joining us today. This is an extraordinary time, not only for our university, but for our country, and I appreciate everyone who's joined us on this. We look at ourselves and we made decisions around all of you, students who are joining us today, parents, faculty, staff, alums. I'm only going to take a couple minutes because you're going to hear from some experts, but I did want you to know how it is. What were the guardrails around what we were thinking? We really believe in a couple of things. One, we believe in the health and safety of our students. I know there are some decisions we've made that many people celebrate and applaud, and some people are inconvenienced. We apologize for the inconvenience, but the stake we put in the ground is the health and safety of the students. And so when you start there and you add to that the second thing we believe in, which is we teach. We are educators here at this university. And so therefore we did everything we could, and you're going to hear from learned folks in a moment, Dr. Sapienza, Dr. Gover, Dr. Bourne, about how we kept alive our ability to teach the students who go here. The third thing we believe in is we believe in science and we believe in expertise. There's an awful lot of people with an awful lot of opinions on this subject right now, and I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care what your political leanings are. None of that matters. We believe in the science, and we believe there are experts, and we've centered around the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC. Some of you know I spent almost 30 years of my career in the health sciences, including running corporations that ran hospitals and pharmaceuticals and biopharma and research. The Centers for Disease Control, you can get involved in an alphabet soup if you're not careful. The NIH, the WHO, the FDA, the HHS, but it's the CDC that we look to for guidance on how severe this is, and so we've linked up to them. And the last thing I'll talk about is we do believe here in the we over the me. There's a lot of sacrifices a lot of you are making, including us here. Think of every single person that's providing services to every student, every family member, whether they're faculty or staff. They themselves have families. They themselves are dealing with their own health challenges. So those are the guardrails around what we're doing. We've put together a team of experienced experts that meets every single day and has been for many weeks now to plan where we were going to go with this and how we're going to be responsive and go along those four guardrails. We've made some decisions already. We've made them public. You know many of them. One, we are now teaching 100% remote. Two, we've made big and tough decisions around athletics. The NCAA has done it. The conference has done it. And we, the university, have had to shut down Division I athletics. Very challenging. Third, we've asked many students to return home. And you're going to hear Dr. Gover talk about that in just a moment. Why? Because we want you to be safe. Fourth, this idea of closing this Friday and this Monday to make it easier for the students to move around without missing classes. Fifth, the work from remote locations. When you see some of the other panelists today, some are here on campus like I am, some are working from home or other places. And last, a tough one, we have postponed graduation. Someone who graduated from here, myself, and someone who's had the chance to preside over, it's an honor to preside over 14 commencements already. I know what a special day that is for everyone us here, families, students, and faculty. Trust me, we're doing everything. We're working on it on an hourly basis to find the proper way to celebrate the class of 2020. You've been an extraordinary class. You've made us a better university. We will not let this moment pass. We'll figure it out, and we'll communicate with you. So I appreciate everyone's flexibility. This is a special culture here that we believe in the JU family. We're all being challenged. But for now, I want to thank you for joining us today. Be safe, and we'll be back for the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, President Cost. And with that, we will pass the baton to our Chief Academic Officer and our Provost, Dr. Chris Sapienza.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you, everyone, for joining today, to our faculty and our staff and our students. I've been in higher education for 30 years, and this is indeed an unprecedented event. And to the President's remarks, this is a time where we see characteristics such as compassion and flexibility and kindness. And I have seen from our Jacksonville family, from our Jacksonville community, everyone step up to the task of having to move our students into a remote learning environment. First and foremost, I just want to thank everyone who has come together in this family spirit to make things as easy and as feasible for our #1 mission, and that is the education of our students. We have gone to a fully online remote learning environment, and what that means is that both our faculty and our students have to have the appropriate technology in order to communicate. But the good news is that the Department of Education has really been flexible and loosened some of their standards as to how we can teach our students. One of the primary modalities that we use is a software program called Blackboard Collaborate. And that allows us to communicate both via audio or video if we choose. Many of our faculty and students are using that modality to be able to clearly articulate with each other the course content. That there's other things that we're allowed to do. We're allowed to just email each other and communicate through email. We're allowed to be able to send files to our students as attachments. We're allowed to use things like Zoom. Our faculty are working on an individual basis with their student groups to see what modality works best for them. And we've done this even in our applied learning classes. I'm so proud of all of our faculty as well as our students as they've learned how to do things like perform virtually, to be able to engage in case series designs and simulations through software programs. Now, we know this isn't ideal. We know that we are not creating a replica of what your students experience on campus. We all realize that. We realize that from the students' perspective, and we realize that from the faculty's perspective. So I want you to know that our faculty are being as flexible as they can and helping your students do one thing: gain the knowledge and skills that they need to in this, as I said, unprecedented environment. There are things that we are doing to help your student on a daily basis. What I advise is that everyone stay very alert to their communications. Please check your emails, students. Please make sure that emails aren't going into your spam. I know that students aren't as accustomed to checking emails. Please look at your emails because this is a primary modality now of communication. With regard to any concerns with regard to students' books and how they'll return them to the bookstore, we're going to go through the same process we always have. You'll receive an email from Barnes & Noble. There'll be instructions in there on how to return your books to the bookstore. You'll have about a week from the time that you receive that email. Again, please check your clutter box and email us if at any point in time you're concerned that you might not be getting messages. So I want to thank everyone again. I want you to know that our advising team, our library, our tutoring, all of it is online, and those resources have been emailed to you. And again, we ask you to communicate with us if you have any confusion. Best wishes to all. Be safe.
Thank you, Dr. Sapienza. And I see that some of our folks are starting to pop in questions in the bottom right. Again, if you're just joining us, please do feel free to utilize the purple panel in the bottom right to enter the chat room and put your questions there, and we'll get to work on that as soon as possible. And also a reminder that everyone can email careteam@ju.edu. We have centralized that communication, so if for some reason we're unable to get to anything today, please remember you have that resource again, careteam@ju.edu. So again, thanks to Dr. Sapienza, and we'll now pass things over to our Dean of Students, Dr. Christy Gover.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Scott. I want to say welcome to everyone, and I want to echo President Cost and Dr. Sapienza's sentiment about just taking a moment to pause and acknowledge that this is an incredibly stressful and overwhelming time for everyone. We understand that in a short time frame, we've asked not only our faculty and staff to make a significant transition, but more importantly, our students. And we want to encourage you to just take a deep breath. We're here to support you. That's our role in this, and we want to help everyone be successful throughout the remainder of the semester. I had a chat with one of my colleagues, Dr. Laura Atkins, recently, and she said something that really resonated with me. She said, there are moments in life when you just have to take a moment and reprioritize, and this is one of those moments. And I couldn't agree more. And I want to challenge us today to take a moment to think about the impact COVID-19 has had not only in our immediate circles, but globally, and recognize that JU is taking the step to play our role in the community from a preventative perspective. And I know that a lot of decisions have been made over the last few weeks. I want to echo the President's comment that we have a team of faculty and staff and experts who have been meeting daily on this topic. And this community cares very deeply about our students, cares very deeply about the Jacksonville University community as a whole. And we have student wellness, faculty and staff wellness at the core of the decisions that we're making. And I just want to reiterate that, because I think in the midst of making decisions quickly that sometimes that may get lost. And I just want to remind everyone that that's what makes JU special. We're a community, and we come together and we support one another. And I just want to challenge everyone to take a step back and remind ourselves of what makes us such a special place. I also think it might be helpful if I pull the curtain back a little bit and share some details on how some of these decisions were made. And in particular, I want to highlight some of the services that we're continuing to provide for students, but I also want to take a moment to recognize and discuss the residential life transition. And Jenny Boyer, Director of Residential Life, will be joining me online at 2 o'clock today, and we can share some additional details. But for the greater group, I think sometimes it's helpful if you understand the decision making that goes on behind the scenes. And I think I'm also asking for a little grace here. This is uncharted territory for all of us, unprecedented times, but I want you to know at the core of everything we're doing, we have your well-being at heart, and we're also trying to think well beyond the borders of Jacksonville University and the role that we play in a preventative measure. So a couple of things that I just want to highlight here. We still have our tutoring available for students, and that's online. Career Resource Center advising is online. Academic advising is online. Our counseling center is available for on counseling. And we have a number of other services that we're providing to our students. I would also just remind everyone that, that we're here for you. If we haven't announced a service that we have transitioned to remote, call us, email us, reach out to the care team email, and we'll help identify what we need to do to better support you. We have a number of student workers. We rely very heavily on student employment at Jacksonville University, and we know that those student workers also rely on that income. And so we've made a commitment through April 3rd, which was our initial date of going online when we were really optimistic and thought we might be able to come back to campus. We've made a commitment through April 3rd to pay all of our student workers, and we're not asking them to come in because we want to protect their health and honor and practice that social distancing. And we're exploring the possibility of being able to pay our federal work study students beyond that April 3rd date. But I think it's important for our families to know that we're looking at angles and different ways that we can support our students. As we have explored what other colleges and universities are doing, when we were looking at that transition to housing, we wanted to make a commitment to allow our students to continue to stay on campus. And that's really important for us because we know that there are a number of students who can't get home. There are a number of students who call JU their permanent home, and we want to honor that. There are also a number of students who have the privilege of being with their families during this time. And I think that let's take a moment and recognize that privilege and that honor. And let's rally around and support those who want to take that step to get home and can't. And I just want to share a couple of heartfelt stories with you that we have something called the Nellie Fund that's designed to support students, students who may have some unforeseen financial struggles. And we've had some students who wanted to go home and weren't able to financially get there. Or we've had students who are already away and their belongings are here on campus. They couldn't come up with the money to support us partnering with Dorm Pack Pros to pack up their belongings. We've had coaches step up and pay for flights. The Nellie Fund has sent students home to international countries. Coaches who have stepped in and said, I'm going to pay for Dorm Pack Pros to come in and pack up your things so you don't have to come back here and do that yourself. And I just want to share that those are the things that you don't necessarily see behind the scenes. And I'd also like to acknowledge that in looking what other universities were doing and honoring our commitment to allow students to continue living on campus, we felt like it was really important to go beyond the 24 to 48 hours turnaround for move out that lots of other universities were asking their students to do. And we gave our students almost a week. I understand that's stressful for a number of students, but there's thought and purpose behind that decision. And I'll share some of that. And I will also say, for many universities who have remained open for their students to continue living on campus and using resources, dining, computer labs, and such, that they're not offering any financial credit to students. But we felt like that was important. And even though it's it's not an obligation for us, we felt like it would be the honorable and smart thing to do for our students to help support you financially for those residential students who have chosen to leave and are getting that $400 credit, whether it's this semester or next. And I understand that in the moment and in the emotions of it all, it's everybody's trying to process that, but I just wanted you to know there's thought behind those decisions. And the thought behind those decisions was to support our students. As the date approaches for move out, I just want everyone to understand the importance behind that date. We have a domino effect. Ultimately, we're working toward the goal of reaching a point in our campus community that in the unlikely event that someone tests positive for COVID-19, we're prepared to support that student and provide a safe environment for the other students on campus. And we have to provide an isolation space, quarantine space. And it's like I said, it's a domino effect. So we'll have to move in over to the South Campus. We're providing a space for them that will allow for social distancing, and that will allow us to prepare other spaces on campus in the event that we are in a position to provide support to students who become ill. And so I think it's important to understand that. I think that Scott's going to get a hook and pull me off here in a minute, so I'll wrap up. I'm using more than my 10 minutes. But I do just want to say that we're here to support you, and I want to challenge you all to support one another. This is bigger than any of us as individuals, and this is when we get to come together and support each other. So if you are in a position where you are already home and you are safe and sound, and maybe your family can help financially support another student who wants to get to that place, or maybe wants to stay at home and have someone pack up their belongings, the Nellie Fund is a great opportunity to help support other students. And Student Affairs has some money set aside. We're going to shift that over to the Nellie Fund as well, so we can financially support students. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't say, take care of yourself in all of this. We have a beautiful 230-acre campus. Take advantage of the waterfront. Go down, take a walk, use our outdoor exercise equipment. Unfortunately, we've had to close many of our amenities for our students, but we have this amazingly beautiful campus where you can get out and take a breath of fresh air. Finally, I just want to give a shout out to our seniors. We have known many of you since new student orientation, and I'll try not to get choked up here. And I know this is not the way you wanted to end your final senior year, but this is a time of transition, and we're going to support you, and we're going to find a way for you. And on that note, I'll close out and hope that everyone stays safe and takes care of themselves. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Dr. Gover. And no hook was coming. I think that's exactly what folks are hoping to hear. And if you don't know Dr. Gover well, you got a really good taste for just how much she cares for this institution and more specifically our students. So really appreciate that, Dr. Gover. With that, I will hand over the floor to Dr. Elaine Bourne from the Keigwin School of Nursing.
Thank you, Scott. I want to say hello to everyone, and I want to tell you we have an amazing team. We have been working together daily really to figure out the best way to support our students, our faculty, and our staff. And one of the things that we really want to touch on for just a few minutes is how can we prevent COVID-19 on our campus? A couple things that we've really talked about, you've heard about on the news and in social media. A couple key things is, one, wash your hands and be diligent about washing your hands. Avoid touching your mouth, your face, your eyes without first washing your hands. And then this other key thing is this social distancing. And this is where I really want to focus my time with you and my attention. We've heard a great deal about social distancing over the last few weeks. And this may be a new term to some people. And this is a term that we like to use when talking about when we're trying to really control a virus. So how do we define social distancing? It means to deliberately or intentionally increase the physical space between people to avoid the spreading of an illness. And so that space, the CDC is defining that space as about a 6-foot radius. And what that does is it helps to lessen the risk or the chance of catching COVID-19. Unfortunately, this virus has an incubation period of anywhere from about 2 to 14 days. And what that means is someone can be carrying the virus and not know it and unintentionally share that virus with someone else. They can have no symptoms. The average onset time of symptoms is about 4 to 5 days, but those days prior to those symptoms, they can be sharing the virus and spreading the virus with someone else. And that's where this social distancing plays a key part in trying to avoid catching this COVID-19. Over the last few days, you have seen schools and universities move to remote learning, cancellation of sporting events, group meetings, and even what we've already talked about, postponing graduation. What we're really trying to do is really avoid all sorts of gathering and know that there are true public health reasons for taking upon these measures. You may have seen the idea or on the news media about something called flattening the curve. And what we're trying to do here in the United States is really try to avoid a peak or a spike in the number of cases of COVID-19 all at one time. What happens is if we have a spike or a peak of COVID-19, we have an overwhelming effect on our healthcare system, and that's what we're really trying to avoid. And so the key thing in doing it and avoiding this peak and flattening the curve is this social distancing. So knowing that social distancing, it's not going to kill COVID-19. It's not going to stop it, but what it will do is push it back and slow it down so that our healthcare system can provide the services that are needed to every single patient, every individual who needs hospital admission or emergency type of care. So when we're thinking about social distancing and implementing that on our campus, I really want us to think about that, trying to remember that we're trying to keep that 6-foot radius, trying to keep that 6-foot distance between each and every individual. So remember, say hi, say hello to others, but remaining within those 6-foot, in that 6-foot recommendation. When you're checking out of housing, you're going to be doing that over the next few days, and you may have to form a line, or if you're going to the dining hall or you're going to the Chick-fil-A or Starbucks, make sure that when you are getting into that line that you're keeping a 6-foot distance between you and that other individual that's in front of you. Something else to think about. So, when we're thinking about those individuals who are going to be staying on campus or those who go home and you're really trying to implement the social distancing, what are some things you can do while you're trying to implement this social distancing? One of the things that I want to really remind you is to really try to hold fast to a sense of normalcy during this time. Think about it. Do things that are outdoors. Go biking. Go for a walk or a run outside. And if you're still living on campus, Dr. Gover's already mentioned this. We have a beautiful campus. Go outside, take a walk outside. We have a beautiful river, and we have a track out close to the river right around our amphitheater where you can go walk or run and enjoy that time together. Remember, if you go with a friend, it's okay to go with a friend, but keep a 6-foot distance between each other. Instead of giving high fives, give air high fives. Don't do a fist bump, and really avoid the elbow bump, because if we do those things, we're not upholding our 6-foot recommendation that's been given to us by the CDC. Know that when you're outside and in a more ventilated area, the risk of transmission decreases significantly. So go outside and enjoy our beautiful weather. I was out last night walking around and I was like, oh, this is absolutely beautiful. So take the time to do that now and enjoy our spring weather. You might say, you know, I'm not one who really enjoys the outdoors and exercising. Maybe you're someone who enjoys the arts. Well, take a painting class online. Take up learning how to play a new instrument, or binge on a TV series that you haven't had the opportunity to watch and really enjoy it. You're going to need to be creative. The wonderful thing is that we live in a day and time of technology, and it provides us the opportunity to stay connected with our friends and our loved ones. Reach out to people. Stay connected, and stay connected to your JU family. We want to know what's going on in your life and how we can support you during this time. You know, we love you. We have a whole team of people who are coming together to really figure out how we can support you during this time. And I want to tell you, we really do look forward to a time of when we can all come back together and see each other again real soon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bourne. I'm getting messages on the phone and seeing so many folks joining us via the chat. It's interesting how these moments really bring us together as a family. So, and Dr. Bourne's such a great asset for us, and we appreciate it. I see Andy will chime in. It's been another great effort on our staff during these much. So we've got some questions we want to delve into, as promised. Have allotted some time here for questions and answers on the back end for stuff we might not have gotten to in the chat. Again, please feel free to keep sending us your questions in the chat room. And if we don't get to anything today, careteam@ju.edu. We have a whole team of folks all across campus committed to that centralized communication to make sure that we're getting all of your questions answered in a timely manner. So wanted to start off with a question I saw in the chat room. This is for our provost, Dr. Chris Sapienza, and asking about the pass-fail question. We've gotten that more recently about what our perspective is on that. Could you speak to that a bit?
Yes, thank you, Scott. And we do appreciate those questions, and we need to be very thoughtful on it. So as we stand today, we are under strong consideration of not so much what is called a pass-fail, Scott, but what is called a satisfactory or unsatisfactory option. And there's a few steps that we have to take within a university system, and we're taking them now. Just this morning, we wrote a memo to our academic standards subcommittee. The chairs of all of our subcommittees, which run the governance of the university, are meeting at 1:30 today. We have put in a request to them with regard to the SU option. And so there'll be more to come in the next few days, but we do have to wait for an approval process on that. The details of how the SU would work if it is approved would be coming from university communications out to our faculty, our students, and our staff.
And while we've got you, Dr. Sapienza, let me ask you another one. Folks asking about what we're planning to do from an applied learning perspective with things such as clinicals particularly.
Another great question. So fortunately for right now, the majority of our programs, this includes things like orthodontics, this includes our occupational therapy, nursing programs, really any program where the accrediting body says a certain amount of hours have to be obtained in order for our students to sit for their licensing exams. Fortunately, you know, we've always done a good job here at JU, where I think from a rigorous standpoint, we've always asked our students to obtain more hours than even what the accrediting bodies have asked our students to do. So we're ahead of the curve for all the programs that have been reported to me thus far. And we are looking to our accrediting bodies for things like being able to substitute simulated case presentations. So we're in that modality right now. We're communicating with all of the students in those programs. I think that they are well aware of the substitutions. If a clinical program in the community is still accepting the students into their environment. Our students are continuing to go. But please realize that all of our major hospital systems have excluded students from their environment for their personal health and safety. So as this continues, as we watch the trend lines, we may have to adjust some of our thinking. But again, it's our job to keep our students well aware of how those adaptations will be made. And we keep a close eye and communication with our accrediting boards for each of those programs.
Dr. Sapienza mentioned trying to stay ahead of the curve, obviously challenging during these uncertain times, but it's really been reassuring for me as a member of this organization how quickly we've been having conversations in and around this issue and trying to be as proactive as humanly possible. So, and obviously Dr. Sapienza trying to do that on the academic side, and appreciate you speaking to those questions. Dr. Gover, I want to turn to you now for a moment. What are we doing, and I know this has been a question we've gotten quite a bit, with students that have left their belongings in their room? You touched on this a bit with the opportunity with the Nellie Fund, but it might be worth circling back to that with the moving out and a lot of quick transition for folks, how we're handling if students have stuff still in their rooms.
Thanks, Scott. We're asking any student who has already left the university and has their belongings here to take a couple of steps. We do want you to move your belongings out, and we're asking that any student who can do that, we're asking them to do that by Monday, March 23rd at 5 p.m. And we have a couple of suggestions on how to accomplish that. The first would be we're being much more flexible than we usually are with allowing students to ask a friend or a family member to collect their belongings for them. And if you want to take that option, then you just need to email the housing@ju.edu email address with permission for that person to pick up your belongings and check you out of the residence hall. If you are not in a position to ask a family member or a friend to do that for you, we're encouraging you to partner with a group, an outside group called Dormpack Pros. Now, these are no strangers to us. They have a student at Jacksonville University. They've been leaders in our Parent and Family President's Council for a number of years now, and they've been very gracious. I would also just like to say, when you think about what you're getting for the service they're offering, and I promise I'm not getting a cut of this, it really is a great deal. It's they'll come in, they'll pack up your belongings, they will move your belongings, they will store them for you, and they will move them back into your room for the fall. So if you're a senior and graduating and you want to take advantage of Dormpack Pros, then you may want to talk with them about where your belongings can go, and we ask that you coordinate directly with them. And Scott, this is where I'm saying this is the university and the greater community's opportunity to come together. If a student is unable to come back to campus and get their belongings, and they really don't have the financial means to either do that, or they don't have the financial means to connect with Dormpack Pros, I think we can support our students financially in accomplishing that, whether that is helping support a flight back to the university and or helping support the payment of Dormpack Pros. I'll also mention that Dormpack Pros has a payment plan for students. And in the note of saying the university wants to help financially support you, this should be reserved for students who need the financial support. And so we just ask that you use your discretion in that regard, and know that we are here to support you, and we'll find a way to help you figure it out. The reason it's important to move your belongings out is because we are trying to allocate our resources where they're most beneficial. And that's on the south side of campus where we have a dining option. All other dining options we're shifting our hours a little bit, but the dining hall will remain open. Starbucks will remain open. Chick-fil-A is going to keep hours open. Waves is located in Oak Hall, and we're going to expand our hours in Waves. But we're trying to allocate our resources to the space that makes most sense. And that will, again, also allow us to focus on the north side of campus in the event that we need to accommodate a student who tests positive for COVID-19. Sorry, that was a much longer answer than you probably bargained for.
No, it's thoughtful, and that's what we're looking for. And just to remind folks, and this is a compliment to you and the institution, that the Nellie Fund had already been established. So there was already an emergency fund in place for situations exactly like this for our students. It's the Nellie Student Support Fund. You can find it at ju.edu/Nellie, N-E-L-L-I-E. You can just do a Nellie Fund search too as well on Google, and it'll pop up as well. So please make sure to try to take advantage of that for our students that are in need. I wanted to turn back now to Dr. Sapienza. I had another question for her, and this is in regard to registration for the fall. A lot of uncertainty, of course, but had the question about what is our approach and how are we handling a fall registration?
Thank you, Scott. Everything is status quo. I just am here online, loving technology, going back and forth with our very competent registrar, Mr. Rob Berwick, and everything for fall would be status quo. The process would stay the same with regard to how the students enacted their registration, whether they were still here on campus or online.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, I'm looking at my list. It appears that I've covered my quota. Hopefully everyone's got a good feel for just how much effort and energy is going towards this situation at Jacksonville University. And again, a reminder that you can keep your questions coming and email us at ju.edu care team. And I'll wrap things up with a bit of laundry at the end, but wanted to give President Cost a chance to give his final remarks.
Great. Thank you, Scott. And my particular thanks to Drs. Sapienza, Gover, and Bourne. You know, we've been preparing for anything, any eventuality that might challenge the students on this campus and the faculty. Sometimes it's weather related, and I think we've distinguished ourselves with some of the experts you just saw. Sometimes it's something is challenging and you can't predict it, as something that happens like 9/11, which is going to be airspace, and that'll challenge our students. And sometimes it's health related. I think those of us who have been born in the 50s or 60s, we have never seen this kind of challenge. We've lived through things like Ebola, we've lived through H1N1 and various kinds of swine flu. But this challenge, as the previous three doctors just went through with you, is a chance for this community to come together. I'm proud of the work that the staff and the faculty are doing to do what's right by the students and their families right now. So please stay in close touch. We look forward to having you come back to campus when the time is right. Scott, back to you.
Thank you, President Cost. Just a few reminders as we wrap things up. For anyone that has missed this, you can still catch it. We recorded the whole thing. We will post it on ju.edu/coronavirus. We will share it on all of our social channels, but it'll be readily available. Again, additional questions that might not have got answered today, please send to careteam@ju.edu. We have a whole team of people all across campus working to answer those questions. If anything you had today didn't get answered, and please just stay in touch with us at that same website, ju.edu/coronavirus. We have all of the up-to-date information, all of the messaging we've had throughout this process, so please utilize that. A reminder, at 2 o'clock today, we will have the virtual housing information session with Jenny Boyer. All the links to that are on our social channels and on that website. Again, the virtual housing information session with Jenny Boyer at 2 o'clock today. And as Dr. Gover alluded to, certainly worth remembering, ju.edu/Nellie is where you can go to give to that Nellie Student Support Fund right now to support our students in need during this emergency. And again, ju.edu/coronavirus, where all of the up-to-date information is available. A big thank you to the leadership of Jacksonville University for helping us out and filling out our panel here today. And thank you to everyone for joining us here today. We really appreciate it and hope that you stay safe.